You noticed it before anyone said it out loud. The 2026 season rolled in. The fields locked. The leaderboards went up, and one name that had been printed on them for over 3 decades was just gone. Not at Augusta. Not at the PGA Championship. Not at the Open. Not on a single LIV start sheet after week 1. Phil Mickelson was not sitting out with a sore wrist. He was not missing cuts by 2 shots. He was not anywhere. And you felt it immediately. Every fan who watches this sport every single week felt it. Because when a 6-time major champion disappears from every tournament without a real explanation, you do not need a press release to know something is deeply wrong. You already knew. You had known since April. The only question left hanging was whether he would ever actually say it out loud. Well, he did. At 56 years old, Phil Mickelson finally said the thing every golf fan had been thinking for months. And what came out of his mouth was not a deflection. It was not a, "we'll see how I feel next year" answer. It was an admission. We're going to get to exactly what he said. Every single word, no filter. But to understand why those words landed the way they did, you need the full picture of what this year actually looked like. Because the empty leaderboards were only the surface. I genuinely think this is the quietest, saddest ending in modern golf. If you see it differently, drop your take in the comments. I want to hear it, and here's the part nobody saw coming. The real reason behind his silence had nothing to do with his swing. Nothing to do with a bad back or a tweaked shoulder or any of the usual explanations players hand over when they need a few weeks off. The official language this time was different. Vague, careful, and that is exactly what made it impossible to ignore. April came first. The Masters field was announced, and Phil Mickelson's name was not on it. A written statement followed. 2 sentences. A personal health matter with his family. No press conference. No interview. No explanation beyond those 7 words. For a man who has played Augusta National more times than almost anyone alive, that silence landed hard. Then May arrived. The PGA Championship published its field. His name was pulled before the first practice round. Same phrase, same wall. Personal health matter. No further detail. Nobody pushed back. Nobody got a follow-up. June brought the US Open, and for the first time in his career, Phil Mickelson did not enter. No statement this time. No written explanation. His name simply was not on the list. And nobody at the USGA offered one on his behalf. 3 majors gone in 3 months. 3 blank spaces where a name used to sit. And the golf world was starting to realize this was not temporary. This was not a man taking a month off to reset. This was something else entirely. Fan forums lit up, whereas Phil posts appeared after every tournament. Nobody had an answer. Golf writers who had covered him for 20 years started running headlines like "The Disappearing Act" and "What Happened to Lefty." None of them had answers. They had theories. Sources who would not go on record. The same 7 words everyone else had. And the not knowing was worse than any explanation could have been. July hit. The Open Championship confirmed its entries. Phil Mickelson was not among them. And with that 4th withdrawal, a streak that had survived for 36 years simply stopped. Every major, every single one, missed. Not since 1990 had that happened. Think about what that means for a man who built his entire identity around showing up. Through injuries, through form slumps, through the gambling stories, through the LIV backlash, through every controversy that could have kept him home, he always showed up. Always found a way into the field. And now in 2026 he was not. The streak did not end with a dramatic withdrawal or a speech about legacy. It ended with a blank space on a start sheet. 4 majors gone in 1 year, explained by 7 written words, but the tour was not the only place his name vanished. LIV Golf was supposed to be the next chapter. When Phil joined in 2022, he was not just another player on the roster. He was the captain of High Flyers. He was the name that gave the league mainstream credibility, the guy who could walk into a press conference and make people take a brand new tour seriously. He was the bridge between the sport people grew up watching and this new experiment nobody was sure would survive. So when the 2026 LIV schedule dropped, fans looked for his name. They found it once, 1 single tournament. After that, his name stopped showing up on start sheets entirely. No withdrawal statement. No injury update. Just silence. Week after week, the High Flyers roster listed 4 players, and the captain was not among them. The other 3 kept playing, kept posting. Phil was nowhere. Scott O'Neill, the league's chief executive, was asked about it once. His answer was vague. Phil was dealing with personal matters, and the organization respected his privacy. No timeline, no plan, no hint of a return. The man who helped build the league could not bring himself to play in it. The High Flyers logo stayed on the scoreboard. The team name stayed in the graphics. But the man it was named after was a ghost. One LIV event in an entire season, that is not a rest period. That is a departure nobody announced. Departure is the right word because what followed made clear this was not about golf anymore. Mid-2026, a name surfaced that nobody expected. Ashley Perez, Pat Perez's ex-wife. Pat Perez played alongside Phil for years. Same circles, same locker rooms, same small world professional golf occupies. And now his ex-wife was stepping forward with specific allegations against Phil. Not vague rumors, not anonymous tips. Named detailed claims that made national sports coverage within hours. The story broke on a Tuesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, it was everywhere. Phil's team issued a response. Measured, legal, careful. The kind of statement a lawyer writes, not a human being. But the damage was done. Every outlet ran it. Every podcast discussed it for days. And Phil did not appear publicly to address it. Not once, no press conference. No post, no interview. The man who once thrived on being the most available player on tour went completely silent. Pat Perez did not comment. Ashley Perez did no follow-ups. The wider golf world would not touch it on camera. The silence from everyone was almost as loud as Phil's own. Within a week, 2 of his remaining sponsorship deals went quiet. Not terminated publicly, just quiet. The logos disappeared from his social media. The brands distanced themselves without a word. And Phil disappeared from public life entirely. The routine that had revolved around practice, gym, and tournament prep for over 4 decades had no structure anymore. No tee time, no trainer, no flight to catch. Empty and unscripted for the first time since he was a teenager carrying clubs at San Diego Country Club. Then one photograph surfaced that said, "More than any statement ever could, July 2026, Amy Mickelson," photographed at a public event. Composed, steady. The woman who had stood beside Phil through breast cancer, through the gambling revelations, through the LIV backlash, through nearly 30 years of marriage, and one detail caught every fan's eye immediately. Her left hand, the ring was gone. The wedding ring she had worn since 1996 was simply not there. A spokesperson released a statement within hours saying Amy continued to support him with unwavering love. Read that again. Unwavering love, and yet the ring was off. Those 2 facts in the same week, nobody reconciled them. Amy was a Phoenix Suns cheerleader when she met him. She married him in 1996. She raised 3 children while he traveled the world. She fought breast cancer publicly and came out the other side. She endured the gambling stories. She absorbed the LIV backlash. Through all of it, the ring stayed on. They built the Phil and Amy Mickelson Foundation together in 2004. 22 years of showing up as a unit. And now in July 2026, the ring was off, and she was alone at a public event. Their 3 grown children stayed silent. The family that had appeared together at majors for nearly 3 decades simply stopped appearing. The absence told its own story. The gambling is not new. Over $1 billion wagered across 3 decades. Nearly $100 million in total losses. $40 million gone in 4 years between 2010 and 2014, a $2 million debt to Billy Walters that ended up in court documents. Phil addressed it himself in 2022, called it reckless, embarrassing, said he was working on it. Fans accepted it. They moved on. Because the golf was the shield. As long as the golf existed, the gambling was a chapter, not the ending. In 2011 alone, he placed over 3 0-0 bets, football, basketball, baseball. Some days, money on 4 sports at once. Walters detailed it all in his book. The offshore accounts, the phone calls, the debts. Phil paid him back eventually. The court documents confirm it. But the pattern was set. Walters even alleged Phil once tried to place a bet on the Ryder Cup, not a football game. The Ryder Cup, a man who played in 12 of them, who stood on the first tee with the American flag behind him, allegedly tried to bet on the outcome. That is how deep it went. Remove the golf and the shield is gone. That is what 2026 did. No Sunday round to hide inside. No, what did Phil shoot today to fill the space? Nothing between him and the noise. For the first time in 36 years, Phil Mickelson had no next tee time. And a blank calendar for a man who has played every week since he was a teenager is not freedom. It is a mirror. It forces you to look at everything you've been running from. And in 2026, Phil finally had to look. A man can hide from his past as long as he has a next tee time. Phil ran out of tee times, and what he said when someone finally asked ended a 36-year era in 5 words. 5 words. That is all it took. In a 2026 interview, he was asked directly, not in passing, a specific question about whether he intended to play competitive golf again. Are you going to play again? For years, his answer was the same. I still love competing. I still believe I can play. We'll see how the body feels. Even at 50, winning the PGA to become the oldest major champion in history, he talked about more. More tournaments, more years. Even joining LIV, he framed it as a continuation. Every time the same message. I'm not done. This time was different. No deflection, no humor. He looked at the question, paused, and gave an answer with no escape route in it. It's toward the end. Read them again if you need to. It's toward the end. Not, I'm thinking about slowing down. Not a maybe. An ending spoken plainly by a man who spent 36 years refusing to let any course finish him without his say. And now at 56, he gave the game its answer before the game could take it from him. The hardest part is not the ending itself. It's knowing it could not have ended any other way. Not with the allegations in the air. Not with the ring gone. Not with one LIV event in 12 months. It was never going to be a final round at Augusta with a standing ovation. It was always going to be this. A quiet admission that confirms what you already felt in your gut months ago. The suspicion was never wrong. Phil Mickelson played his last competitive round. The 2026 season was the period at the end of the sentence. The PGA Tour moves on. LIV moves on. The majors fill with younger, hungrier names who never knew a Sunday without Phil in contention. The game never stops for anyone. But the leaderboard feels incomplete now in a way that's hard to explain to anyone who wasn't there for all of it. And that feeling is earned. If you want real conversations about golf like this every single week, subscribe to the channel. We're building something honest here, and I want you part of it. 6 majors. A 36-year streak, the oldest major champion in history. All of that is real. All of that stays. But the active chapter, the one where he makes you believe he can pull something out of nowhere on a Sunday back 9, that chapter is closed. And the honesty in those 5 words, after years of deflection, might be the most Phil Mickelson thing he ever did. He didn't let someone else write his ending. He looked at the question and answered it. It's toward the end.